The stars twinkled peacefully over the small town of Riverside as Tommy walked home from the community center. At 12 years old, he was old enough to make the 10-minute journey alone, especially with his neural implant sending regular updates to his parents. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, and a cool breeze rustled through the trees lining the quiet street. Tommy thought about the robotics project he had been working on. His team was building a small drone that could help find lost pets. The idea had come to him after his neighbor's cat went missing last month. Even though humans now had contact with alien species, they still cared deeply about the small things that made life on Earth special. The boy didn't notice the slight shimmer in the air behind him, the telltale sign of a cloaked ship. He was too busy planning tomorrow's work on the drone's scanning system. The first warning came when his neural implant flickered, something that wasn't supposed to happen with the quantum lock technology. A soft hum filled the air, and before Tommy could turn around, a pale blue light surrounded him. His feet left the ground, and panic seized his chest. The neural implant sent out a burst of emergency signals, but they were mostly scattered by the strange field around him. Inside the cloaked ship, 3 figures waited. They wore the formal robes of the Galactic Council's research division, marked with symbols of their high rank. The tallest one, Director Port, nodded with satisfaction as their subject materialized in the containment field. Specimen acquired, one of the researchers noted in their log. Human male, juvenile, approximately 12 Earth cycles old. Perfect for our study on species resilience and adaptation potential. Tommy tried to speak, but the field around him dampened all sound. His heart pounded as he looked at the alien faces studying him with cold curiosity. He had seen aliens before. Earth had been part of the galactic community for 5 years now. But never like this. Never with such clinical detachment in their eyes. The Council requires proof of humanity's limitations, Director Port said, his translator making the words crisp and clear. They advance too quickly, adapt too readily. We must understand their weaknesses before they become a true threat. The ship rose silently through Earth's atmosphere, its advanced cloaking technology hiding it from conventional sensors. Tommy's neural implant continued its desperate attempts to signal for help, managing to send out broken fragments of data despite the dampening field. On their primary research station orbiting Centauri Prime, a team of scientists had already prepared their laboratory. They had studied human physiology for months, preparing for this moment. The Council had chosen this facility for its distance from Earth and its state-of-the-art security systems. What the Council didn't know, what their arrogance had prevented them from learning, was that humanity's neural implant technology was far more sophisticated than they had revealed. Every human child had received one after first contact, officially to help them interface with alien technology. The truth was more complex. As Tommy's implant struggled against the dampening field, it kept recording, kept transmitting. The signal was weak, broken, and scattered across subspace, but it was persistent. Like water wearing away at rock, it would eventually find its way through. The ship docked at the research station 6 hours later. Tommy, still held in the containment field, had exhausted himself trying to break free. His tears floated in the zero gravity of the field, small droplets that the researchers noted with academic interest. Begin the preparation process, Director Port ordered. The Council expects preliminary results within 1 planetary cycle. None of them understood the gravity of their actions. They had no concept of how humans valued their children, how the species had evolved to respond to threats against their young. The Council saw humans as upstart primitives who had somehow stumbled upon advanced technology too quickly. They would learn their mistake. But for now, Tommy was led deeper into the station, his neural implant faithfully recording and transmitting even as his hope began to fade. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the scattered signals of his fear and pain raced toward Earth, carrying with them the seeds of the Council's destruction. The laboratory lights never fully dimmed on Centauri Prime's research station. Tommy had lost track of time in the windowless room where they kept him. The only markers of passing days were the shifts of different researchers who came to run their tests. His small cell had a bed that was too hard and food that tasted like nothing. Director Port stood behind the observation glass, watching as two researchers prepared for today's test. On his data pad, he reviewed the results from the past month. The human child had shown remarkable healing abilities, far beyond their initial estimates. Wounds that should have taken weeks to heal closed in days. Broken bones mended themselves in half the expected time. Begin the temperature endurance test, Port ordered through the room's communication system. The researchers adjusted their controls, and the air in Tommy's chamber began to grow colder. They had already tested heat tolerance last week. Tommy still had the marks from those burns, though they were fading faster than the scientists could explain. Tommy hugged himself as frost formed on the walls. His neural implant continued its quiet work, recording and transmitting everything. The cold bit deeper, and he began to shiver violently. The researchers made notes about how long he maintained consciousness, how his body attempted to adapt to the dropping temperature. Fascinating, one researcher muttered, watching the readings. Even in extreme cold, the specimen's core temperature drops more slowly than our models predicted. Some kind of previously unknown biological adaptation. What they didn't understand was that humans had spent thousands of years surviving in every climate their planet could throw at them. From frozen tundras to burning deserts, humanity had not just survived but thrived. The Council's scientists saw only what their instruments could measure, missing the deeper truth about human resilience. Tommy thought about home as the cold crept into his bones. He remembered warm summer days in Riverside, playing with friends, working on his robotics projects. The memory of warmth helped him hold on as ice crystals formed on his eyelashes. His fingers and toes had gone numb, but still he endured. Impossible, Port said, checking the readings again. He should have lost consciousness by now. Increase power to the cooling units. The temperature dropped further. Tommy's breath came out in white clouds that froze in the air. Through chattering teeth, he began to sing a song his mother had taught him. The researchers tilted their heads, recording this unexpected behavior. Most species went quiet when exposed to extreme conditions. But humans made noise. They sang. They talked. They refused to go quietly into the dark. Hours passed before they finally ended the cold test. As the room slowly warmed, Tommy's body shook with violent shivers. But his eyes remained alert, watching the researchers through the observation window. There was something in that gaze that made even Director Port uncomfortable. Not fear or hatred, but a steady, patient observation. Like the child was memorizing their faces. Prepare for the next series, Port ordered, pushing aside his unease. The Council wants to understand their pain threshold. Begin with electrical stimulation tomorrow. The researchers nodded and made notes on their data pads. None of them noticed the subtle pattern of lights flickering in the lab systems. Tommy's neural implant had found tiny gaps in their security, sending out its persistent signal in bursts of data hidden in the station's normal communications. That night, as Tommy lay on his hard bed, he remembered something his teacher had said during a history lesson. Humans were like water. They seemed weak and yielding, but given enough time, they could wear away mountains, break down walls, find ways through the smallest cracks. In his dreams, Tommy saw Earth. He couldn't know that his scattered signals were already reaching home, that pieces of his ordeal were being collected and assembled. He couldn't know that humans had already advanced far beyond what the Council believed possible, that the technology they showed to their galactic neighbors was centuries behind what they actually possessed. The researchers continued their work, believing they were learning humanity's weaknesses. Instead, they were teaching humanity exactly how the Council fought, how they operated, and most importantly, how they could be destroyed. Every piece of data they collected about Tommy was matched by the data his neural implant collected about them. The Council had wanted to study human resilience. Soon, they would understand it in ways they had never intended. Deep within Earth's Intelligence Division, in a room that officially didn't exist, Agent Miller stared at his screen with growing horror. For 6 months, the division had been collecting scattered signals from space, fragments of data that seemed random at first. Now, as the final pieces fell into place, the truth emerged in brutal clarity. The neural feed playback showed flashes of pain, cold, and fear. Tommy's experiences came through in broken chunks, but each new piece added to their understanding of what the Council had done. Miller's coffee grew cold on his desk as he watched another segment, his hands clenched into fists. "Get me the Joint Chiefs," he said to his AI assistant. "Priority Black. Wake them all up. Now." Within an hour, the most secure meeting room in the intelligence division filled with military leaders, politicians, and intelligence officers. The room's quantum shielding ensured absolute privacy as Miller played the compiled footage. They watched in silence as Tommy endured test after test. Cold that would kill most species, heat that left burns, electrical shocks delivered with clinical precision. Through it all, the boy's neural implant had kept transmitting, kept sending out its cry for help. Admiral Kane, a mother of 3, spoke first after the footage ended. "They took a child." Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of promised violence. "They took one of our children and tortured him for research." The room erupted in controlled fury. These were people who had spent years hiding humanity's true capabilities from the galactic community. They had played the role of newcomers, pretending their technology was just advanced enough to join galactic society. Now that carefully maintained facade was about to be torn away. "Activate the Dark Fleet," the President ordered. The command needed no discussion or vote. When it came to protecting children, there was no debate among humans. Implement the Scorched Stars Protocol. Around Earth, hidden shipyards emerged from their quantum fields. Ships that no alien scan could detect powered up their engines. They were black as space itself, covered in materials that absorbed all light and energy. Weapons that defied the Council's understanding of physics were brought online. In underground bases, soldiers donned armor that made them nearly invisible and completely invulnerable to known alien weapons. Each volunteer was a parent themselves. They had trained for years, preparing for the day when humanity might need to show its true strength. The Intelligence Division sent out a coded message to human agents hidden throughout Council space. These agents had spent years mapping defense systems, studying weaknesses, and preparing for various scenarios. Now they received their activation orders. Scenario Black. Child taken. Miller watched from his office as the first ships lifted off. The Dark Fleet moved in perfect silence, their engines leaving no trace in space. Decades of hidden technological advancement were about to be revealed, but not in the way the Council had feared. They had worried about humanity becoming a military threat in the future. Instead, they would learn that humans had surpassed them long ago. Reports came in from across Earth as nations united in their response. Old enemies offered their military support without hesitation. Countries that had fought for centuries now worked together, all focused on one goal: bringing Tommy home and making the Council pay. In his lab on Centauri Prime, Tommy felt something change. His neural implant picked up a surge of encrypted communications, signals hidden so deep in subspace that the Council's best detection systems saw nothing. Help was coming, though the Council would have no warning until it was far too late. "Begin the final phase of testing," Director Port told his team. Unaware that their time was running out, "The Council meets next week to review our findings." The Council would indeed learn about humanity's capabilities, but not in the sterile environment of the laboratory. They would learn as their worlds went dark, as their technology failed, as everything they had built crumbled around them. Humanity had spent generations preparing for first contact, hiding their true power, playing the role of eager students in galactic society. But there was one truth they had never hidden: humans protected their children. The Council had ignored this fundamental fact, and their punishment was already on its way. The Dark Fleet moved through space like shadows between stars. No radar could detect them, no sensors could track them. 50 ships, each carrying 100 of Earth's most dedicated soldiers, slipped past the Council's defense networks as if they didn't exist. Commander Jack stood on the bridge of the lead ship, watching tactical displays that showed their progress toward Centauri Prime. His daughter back on Earth was Tommy's age. When he had volunteered for this mission, she had hugged him and said, "Bring him home, Dad." Now, looking at the holographic display of their target, he intended to do just that. The fleet's AI systems had already mapped every defense platform, every patrol route, every possible threat. The Council thought their systems were secure, but human quantum computers had broken their encryption years ago. They knew exactly where Tommy was being held, and they had planned their attack down to the second. "All ships, maintain formation," Jack ordered through the fleet's quantum-linked communications. "Remember your training. We are not here for wholesale destruction. We are surgeons removing a cancer from the galaxy." The soldiers in their ships checked their gear one final time. Their armor was nothing like the basic protection they showed the Council during joint military exercises. These suits could phase through solid matter, turn invisible, and withstand direct hits from any known weapon. Each soldier carried weapons that could disable entire defense systems without destroying them. As they approached Centauri Prime's outer defense ring, Jack opened a channel to all ships. "This is not just about revenge," he said quietly. "This is about justice. This is about showing the galaxy that humanity will not tolerate the torture of children, any children from any species. Today we teach them why." The first sign that something was wrong came when 3 patrol ships suddenly lost power. Their crews found themselves floating in space, their emergency systems barely functioning, watching helplessly as invisible forces moved past them. In his laboratory, Director Port was reviewing the day's test results when the lights flickered. He frowned, checking his console, but everything showed normal. The station's AI reported all systems functioning perfectly. The Council's much-praised security systems saw nothing wrong. They never saw the dark fleet ships dock with the station, never detected the soldiers passing through their walls like ghosts. The first real warning came when every door in the research facility locked simultaneously, trapping the researchers in their sections. Jack led the strike team heading for Tommy's cell. Their armor sensors showed them exactly where everyone was in the station. They moved like water through the corridors, unstoppable and invisible. When they reached the cell block, Jack ordered, "Disable their weapons first, then make them watch." The research staff's weapons simply dissolved in their hands, turned to dust by nanites that humans had perfected decades ago. Their communications went dead. Their computers stopped responding. In the space of 5 minutes, the most secure research facility in Council space had been completely neutralized. Tommy looked up as his cell door disappeared. Not opened, simply ceased to exist. A figure in black armor appeared out of thin air, kneeling down to his level. The helmet retracted, showing a human face with kind eyes and a determined expression. "Hey, buddy," Jack said softly. "We got your messages. We're here to take you home." Tommy's eyes filled with tears as more soldiers appeared, securing the area. Through the observation window, he could see Director Port and his team trapped in their own security field, watching with disbelief as their facility was systematically taken apart by technology they couldn't even understand. "Send the signal," Jack ordered as he picked Tommy up. The boy's neural implant connected with their secure network immediately, confirming his identity and beginning the process of healing his injuries. Across Council space, hidden human agents activated their protocols. On 50 worlds, defense systems began to fail. Communications networks crashed. The message was clear. This was just the beginning. As they carried Tommy back to their ship, Jack looked at the terrified researchers. "Remember this," he said, his voice carrying through their newly compromised communications. "Remember what happened when you thought you could torture a human child and face no consequences. Because this is just the first hour of your punishment." The Council's high chamber on Centauri Prime erupted into chaos as emergency alerts flooded their screens. Their most secure facility had been breached, their best defenses bypassed as if they were made of paper. The Grand Speaker, oldest and wisest of the council members, watched in stunned silence as footage showed black armored figures walking through solid walls. "Impossible," one council member shouted, his translator barely keeping up with his agitation. "Their technology is centuries behind ours. We monitored their development. We know their capabilities." The Grand Speaker raised a hand for silence as a new message appeared on the main screen. It was text only, simple and direct. "You knew what we showed you, nothing more." Outside the council chamber, more dark fleet ships emerged from nowhere. They appeared above every major city on Centauri Prime, their hulls absorbing all light until they looked like holes in reality. No alarms sounded, no defense systems activated. The Council's mighty fleet hung dead in orbit, disabled by weapons they couldn't detect. In the research facility, Director Port and his team remained trapped in their own containment field, forced to watch as human soldiers methodically documented everything. Their computers, their data, their research, all of it was being copied and analyzed by devices that seemed to defy the laws of physics. "Begin Phase 2. Commander Jack ordered from his ship. He had personally escorted Tommy to a medical bay where advanced healing technologies were repairing the damage done by the Council's tests. Now it was time to show the galaxy what happened when you earned humanity's wrath. Across Centauri Prime, every screen, every communication device, every data terminal began broadcasting the truth. Citizens watched in horror as the footage from Tommy's neural implant played. They saw their respected scientists torturing a child. They saw the cold calculations, the endless tests, the casual cruelty. Your leaders knew. The broadcast said in all local languages. Your scientists knew. They chose to torture a child in the name of research. Now you will all know what they did in your name." The council members tried desperately to contact their military commands, their home worlds, anyone who could help. But their quantum communications network had been completely shut down. They were isolated, cut off from everything except the evidence of their crime being broadcast across their civilization. Human soldiers appeared inside the council chamber itself, walking through the supposedly impenetrable security barriers. Their armor made them look like living shadows, and their weapons were like nothing the council had ever seen. "We could destroy you all," one soldier said, her voice calm and measured. "We could turn your worlds to ash, reduce your civilization to ruins. But that's not how humans do justice." Another soldier stepped forward, his armor displaying holographic images of the experiments on Tommy. "Instead, we will dismantle everything you built. Piece by piece, system by system. You will watch as your power crumbles, as your technologies fail, as your secrets are exposed." The Grand Speaker stood slowly, his ancient frame trembling. "We did not know," he began, but stopped as one of the soldiers raised a hand. "You chose not to know," the soldier corrected. "You approved the research. You sanctioned the torture of a child. And now you will face the consequences." Throughout the city, more human ships appeared. They didn't fire weapons or drop bombs. Instead, they began a precise, surgical operation to disable every piece of advanced technology the Council possessed. Transportation systems switched off. Power grids went dark. Communication networks fell silent. In orbit, the Dark Fleet's AI systems began broadcasting a new message to every Council world. Witness the price of cruelty. Witness the cost of harming a human child. This is only the beginning. The Council members watched helplessly as their civilization's infrastructure was systematically shut down. Their weapons wouldn't fire. Their shields wouldn't activate. Their proud technology, built over thousands of years, was being turned off like lights at the end of day. "Remember this moment." Commander Jack's voice echoed through the chamber. "Remember that you brought this on yourselves. Because tomorrow, we start dismantling everything else you hold dear." The message played across every screen in Council space, on every planet, in every language. Tommy's face appeared first, not the scared, hurt child from the laboratory, but the healthy boy he had been before. Then came the footage of what they had done to him. No one could look away. No one could claim ignorance. Back on Earth, Tommy lay in a healing pod, his parents holding hands beside him as advanced medical systems repaired the damage. His neural implant now connected him to a vast network of support. Thousands of messages from other children, from parents, from people across Earth who had seen what happened to him and wanted him to know he wasn't alone. Begin the next phase, Agent Miller ordered from Earth's command center. On his screens, he watched as human ships appeared above more Council worlds. Like a wave of darkness sweeping across the galaxy, the Dark Fleet moved with unstoppable precision. On the Council world of Prime Beta, the largest shipyards in the galaxy went dark. Human soldiers walked through walls and security fields, systematically shutting down every piece of advanced technology. They didn't destroy. They disabled, dismantled, and documented. Each broken law, each violation of sentient rights, was recorded and broadcast. The Council's military tried to respond. Their most advanced ships, their best weapons, their elite troops, all found themselves facing an enemy that had hidden its true power for generations. Weapons passed through human ships without effect. Barriers meant to stop armies couldn't even slow down a single human soldier. We could have come as conquerors. The broadcasts continued, showing more footage from Tommy's ordeal. We could have destroyed you all. Instead, we waited. We watched. We hoped you would prove yourselves worthy of the galaxy you claimed to govern. And then you took one of our children. In the Centauri system, Commander Jack coordinated the operation from his flagship. The Council's databases were being downloaded, their secrets exposed. Evidence of other crimes, other victims, began to emerge. The torture of Tommy wasn't an isolated incident. It was just the first time they had dared to do it to a human. Send in the medical teams, Jack ordered. On dozens of worlds, human doctors began appearing in hidden research facilities. They found other children, other test subjects, locked away and forgotten by the Council. Each rescue was documented, each victim saved, each crime added to the growing list. The Council's member races watched as their leaders' crimes were exposed. Riots broke out on some worlds. Governments began to fall. The careful political structure built over thousands of years crumbled in days. Tommy woke up in his healing pod, his body whole again, but his eyes carrying a wisdom no child should have to bear. His first words weren't about revenge or anger. He asked about the others, the ones he had heard crying in nearby cells. When told they were being rescued, he smiled for the first time since coming home. Your leaders broke the most fundamental law of humanity. The broadcasts continued. Not just the torture of a child, though that alone earned our wrath. They broke the trust of their own people. They committed crimes in your name, using your resources, claiming your authority. The Dark Fleet moved with mechanical precision, each ship following a carefully planned strategy. They didn't fire a single shot. They didn't need to. Humanity had spent years placing backdoors in Council technology, building kill switches into their systems, preparing for the day when the Council would reveal its true nature. On Earth, the President addressed the human population. We are not seeking destruction, she said, her words broadcast alongside the evidence of Council crimes. We are seeking justice, not just for Tommy, not just for humanity, but for every species that suffered under their rule. The Council's power didn't end with a bang, but with the quiet death of 1,000 small systems. Their ships wouldn't move, their weapons wouldn't fire, their communications couldn't transmit. Piece by piece, system by system, their civilization was being stripped down to its foundations. You took one of our children, the message repeated across the galaxy. Now watch as we take everything from you, not through violence, not through destruction, but through the simple act of turning off every piece of technology you abused, dismantling every system you corrupted, exposing every crime you committed. 30 days after Tommy's rescue, the galaxy looked very different. 7 Council worlds had surrendered completely, their government stepping down after their people learned the full extent of their crimes. The remaining council members gathered one last time, not in their grand chamber, but in a simple room on Earth. Tommy watched the proceedings from his home in Riverside, fully healed but changed. The other children rescued from council facilities were with their own families now, or with new ones who had volunteered to care for species who had lost everything. His neural implant connected him to them sometimes, a network of survivors helping each other heal. Commander Jack stood at the head of the conference room, his black armor now bearing the new symbol of Earth's Justice Division, a child's hand held protectively in an adult's. The council members, stripped of their grand robes and elaborate technology, sat in simple chairs like chastised schoolchildren. "The terms are simple," Jack said, his voice carrying to every screen across council space. "Every world that participated in or knew about these crimes will submit to human oversight. Not forever, just long enough to ensure this never happens again." In orbit, the Dark Fleet maintained its silent watch. Earth had revealed only a fraction of its true capabilities, enough to show that resistance was pointless, while keeping their most advanced technology hidden. The message was clear. Humanity could have taken much more, but chose restraint. "The first law of the new Galactic Accord is this," the Earth President announced, standing beside Jack. "The harming of any child, of any species, will be met with immediate and total response, not just from humans, but from all civilized species." Tommy's neural implant recorded this too, adding it to the vast database of humanity's history. Future generations would know both the crime and the response, would understand why humans had hidden their true power for so long. They had waited, watched, and hoped they would never need to reveal it. The former council members signed the new accords one by one. Their signatures activated quantum-locked contracts that would prevent their worlds from developing certain technologies until they proved themselves worthy of trust. It wasn't punishment, it was rehabilitation. In the research facility where Tommy had been held, human teachers now worked with young aliens, showing them a different way. The labs had been converted into schools, the torture chambers into healing centers. Where pain had reigned, now hope grew. "We could have destroyed them all," Tommy said quietly to his parents as they watched the signing. "But that would have made us like them." His words, spoken with a child's simple wisdom, were added to the official record. They would be studied by future generations as the moment humanity proved itself better than its enemies. The Dark Fleet began to disappear, returning to the hidden shipyards and quantum fields that had concealed them for so long. They had never fired a shot, never taken a life. Their victory had come not through destruction, but through the simple act of showing the truth and demanding justice. In the following weeks, more changes swept the galaxy. Former council worlds began to rebuild, not with grand technology, but with simple tools and human guidance. Their children played together in parks that had once been military bases. Their scientists learned to use technology responsibly, under the watchful eyes of human mentors. Commander Jack visited Tommy one last time, not as a soldier, but as a father. He brought his daughter, and the two children talked about normal things: school, games, dreams for the future. It was the greatest victory of all, that after everything, Tommy could still be a child. Was it worth it? The former Grand Speaker asked during the final session of the new accord. "Hiding your power for so long, waiting, watching us make mistakes." The Earth President looked at screens showing children of all species playing together, showing the new schools, the healing centers, the rebuilt communities. "We didn't hide our power," she said softly. "We hid our mercy. Any species can destroy. It takes true strength to heal, to rebuild, to forgive while ensuring justice is served." As the sun set on the first day of the new era, Tommy sat in his backyard, working on his robotics project again. His neural implant connected him to friends across the galaxy, human and alien children learning from each other, growing together. The stars above weren't scary anymore. They were full of possibility, of hope, of a future where no child would ever suffer as he had. The galaxy had learned its lesson, not through fire and death, but through the quiet strength of a civilization that valued its children above all else. Humanity had revealed its power, but more importantly, it had revealed its heart.